Hi, and welcome to the Sterling Net Point Power Ranking Show. My name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. My co-host and new PTTFL Hall of Fame inductee, Benjamin Dickerson. There you go, right there, right there. Yeah,
And that thing beautiful.
it's a nice piece of jewelry
So
there.
proud. I'm so proud. So proud to be inducted into the PTTF Hall of Fame, a football league, a recreational football league that started out as rough touch and is now flag football. It's been going on since 1963. We both played, and now we're both in the Hall of Fame because he's been in. You went in the first class, didn't you?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you check your email today, I found the pamphlet for the whole itinerary and everything for that with
For
people's
for that
names.
night.
Yeah, for that
Yeah.
night. So
Okay,
yeah,
cool. I'm gonna do that.
I emailed that to you. I emailed.
Okay, great.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great time. Um, tell your wife I was surprised I did not see her because I've seen her at football games in worse weather than that. So
Yeah, but since I retired, she's kind of been out of it, away from it. So
me too, shucks. Obviously, I'm sitting there freezing, trying to close up my coat even more. In the meantime, I'm seeing all the young guys running around. Hey, you want a beer? Beer, have a beer. I was like, beer? Can I get a heater? So, it's something that we did playing in some of the worst weather. I remember a lost championship in the Bell League where it was raining so hard and the field was so muddy that when we went for the final score and it was a button hook to me and I button hooked and turned around, but I kept sliding back in the mud and the ball just dropped. It just dropped right in front of me. It was crazy. So
yeah,
we were out in much and that doesn't even include the time that we were not in the leagues. So some of the times when we were not in the leagues, we were still out there playing in that
right,
crazy weather. It's our Sunday thing. Let's go out and
bro.
play some
For the
football
love of the game.
for the love of the game, for the love of the game. All right. Well, thank you, ladies and germs, for indulging us in that. The Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. Um, what we're going to present is we present what we consider baseline statistics. Um, and they're based on differentials. What we do is we rank the NFL teams by win margin or average net points. So if you're winning by an average of 25 points per game, and that is the largest win margin in the league, then you would be number one. And those win margins can go positive or negative because if you're losing on a consistent basis, you might be number 32 and have a negative win margin. We also look at points for or the scoring, averages, points against, defensive scoring, and we look at average turnover differential. That is uh, takeaways, giveaways minus takeaways right there. So we figure if you have these stats, you have a good baseline of information, and then you can add on things like injuries, for example. Ben has a number of things that he would add on as a factor in his fantasy league. And oh, by the way, I was with my son the other day, and he was showing me a little bit about a little bit of your fantasy stuff on his phone. And
Yeah, he just beat me last weekend.
did he really? Well, I think he was in first place though, right?
I am in first place, yes.
So here you go. But when we're talking about the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, we're going to show you some information. We'll go through it, and it gives you an idea about really where these teams actually stand in terms of their actual scoring. So let's go ahead and get started with it, Benny. We have the rank. A&P stands for average net points, and the 2025 is for the full year. So next to that, we have the team, and it's ranked. Now, this is based on the average net points over the last 3 weeks. So I've been trying to add that to see who's kind of getting their mojo in gear, and recently, and how that maybe has changed some things. So we always like to give kudos to our first place participants, and number one for the season is the Seattle Seahawks. Congratulations. Over the last 3 weeks, it's been Jacksonville, Benny, in that first place spot. So that's one of the hot teams. Number two, we'll just look at the top five: Seattle, the Rams, Indianapolis at three now. They were in first place for a while there, at +9. Um, Below that, you have the Patriots at +8.5 and the Bills at +6.5. You got a few sixes. I'll take Detroit 6.3, Kansas City 6.1, drop into your fives. And then you have the lower half of the top half: Kansas City, Green Bay, Houston, Jacksonville, my beloved San Francisco 49ers, the LA Chargers, the Philadelphia Eagles, number 14. That's an average win margin for the NFL champions at +1.8. So your differential between Seattle's win margin and Philly's win margin is what, close to 10 points, 9, 10 points. That's
Yeah.
that's a pretty big spread. So, kind of is indicative of that Philadelphia is having issues. They're having issues. Now, Dallas at 0.8 is actually a good move because they were way below that. They were in the negatives for a while, but they've been playing so much better. And look at Chicago and bringing up the 16th spot in the top half of the average net points. Now, if we drop over to the right side, we see my Niners moving from 12th place to second place at +16 over the last 3 weeks. Jacksonville, like I said, at first place +18. There's your Patriots there, Benny, +12.3. And the Packers, people really talking about the Packers. They don't know to be scared of the Packers or what, man. It's really kind of funny at +10.3. Seattle +10, Buffalo +9. There's your Rams at 8.7. Miami right there in the middle of everything at +8. I was a little surprised about that. Dallas, as you can see, that upward momentum at +7.7. Same thing for Chicago at +4.7. I think the difference there, Benny, and we'll talk about that a little bit, between scoring 4.7 on average or winning by that versus 7.7 for Dallas, is the type of game, at least that last game that Chicago played, rushing for 300, 200, 300 yards, as opposed to Dallas, which is, throwing that ball all over the place. They got top receivers. So it's just, they might be scoring a little bit more. And plus, I think Chicago's defense is stepping up, which is what happened with Dallas. Atlanta, Denver, the Chargers, Baltimore, and breaking even with one Aaron Rodgers at 0 net points over the last 3 weeks. And I would say, in a way, that's a move up because they're not even there for the season on the left-hand side. So you like the winners, and they, get all excited about the lower half. So what do you got for this one?
Well, when I look at the season totals, I can see that it's still a battle between basically the same teams. In the NFC, it's Seattle, the Rams. Uh, I'm going to say Detroit, even though, this is average net points. So this doesn't take into consideration wins and losses. So when you look at it wins and losses wise, you might say, I don't know about Detroit. They may not even make the playoffs. But average net points may, because they're so high in them, it may allow them some I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but they're not out of it yet. Let me put it that way. Green Bay, of course, a week or two ago, I said I didn't trust Green Bay. They had some impressive wins and they had some very horrible losses. Not necessarily like getting blown out, just losses that should not have happened. But so that's why I was saying I didn't trust them. But they seem to be putting their pedal to the metal there. Of course, every time I say that, something happens. But you know what I mean? I've been impressed with them lately. There's 16 teams on this list. It's funny. I counted real quick. 8 of them are NFC teams. and 8 of them are AFC teams. So
Wow.
neither conference is sweet. It's a lot of these division titles are going to go down to the wire. You got teams that are fighting desperately to win the division because if they don't, that's the only way they're going to make the playoffs is to win the division. So, it's crazy. And let's remind everybody the NFC East, the division that the Eagles are in, they haven't had a repeat division champ in I don't know how many years. It's been a long time. So I'm thinking, okay, well, Eagles just won the Super Bowl. They won the division. They won the Super Bowl last season. They should win it again this season. That was my thinking. I was like, well, that streak will be broken. But guess what? Now that's up in the air too.
Yeah, it's interesting that you point that out because I'm just seeing there Dallas is 15th for the season, and Philly is 14th. Philly's 1.8 and Dallas is 0.8 for the season. So that's one average net point difference. However, when you come over to the other side, you see Dallas at plus 7.7 and you don't see Philly at all.
Right, because Dallas is surging and Philly is stumbling.
Amazing, the numbers are what they are because of all of these things that we're talking about. Let's look at the second half real quick, Benny. All right, so we have average net points. So we talked a little bit about Philadelphia. Over the last 3 weeks, you can see on the right-hand side, they're in third place at minus 1.7. Kansas City is minus one, and Indianapolis is minus 0.3. Um, on the season side, you got Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Miami at minus 3.3. And you saw what happened with them on the other side. Carolina, Minnesota, Washington, the Jets, Cleveland Giants, Cincinnati, New Orleans, Vegas, and Tennessee is at the bottom for the season. Vegas is at the bottom over the last 3 weeks. Minnesota is just above them. Tampa Bay just above them. Your New York Giants at minus 10.7, Benny, right below Tennessee. These are the negative side of the averages, which teams, again, usually with losing records, so their loss numbers are greater than their win numbers, and so their net out is negative. Detroit over the last 3 weeks now, the question I have about Detroit is their injury status, especially with their wide receiver. I'm on St. Brown. Philly at minus 1.7. I think I mentioned that. And Kansas City at minus one. Indianapolis minus 0.3. Anything on this group?
Uh, let me peruse this again real quick here. Yeah, Baltimore's not out of it yet. Pittsburgh, same division. They're teetering. Tampa Bay, again, they're getting some pressure in their division. They're going to need to win that division title to guarantee a playoff spot. Atlanta in the same division. I'm looking at the season list right now.
Right.
They're only that high because of some games they had earlier on, I think. Although, well, Baltimore's still hanging in there. Pittsburgh's in the same division. So I don't want to say they don't have a shot, but it's looking kind of grim. Tampa Bay will probably, if Carolina doesn't overtake them, win the division, guaranteeing themselves a playoff spot. And Atlanta looks bad. Arizona looks bad. I don't have much hope for Miami and Carolina. Like I said, it's getting real dangerous here coming down the stretch. Some of those other teams down below them, I don't believe have a chance in heck to do anything as far as the playoffs are concerned, and they're just kind of playing out the string.
Okay. All right. And kind of the same thing on the last 3 weeks. You kind of see a lot of the same teams having the same types of issues. So let's look at scoring, Benny. All right. Average points for the season. Congratulations to the Indianapolis Colts. Excuse me. Averaging 29.8 points per game. Now, right below them and right below them and right below them that's through fourth place. Dallas, Seattle, Detroit, and Buffalo. Excuse me, Dallas, Seattle, and Detroit are all in that 29-point range from point three down to point two. Buffalo, 28.1. So, my magic number is 28. So, those top five really intrigue me. However, right, just a tad below it, you got the Rams, New England, at 27 points. Rams, you could round that up to 28. They're 27.8. You gotta you gotta give Chicago kudos, man. They're averaging 26 points a game on offense, you know. I mean, you can say what you want about Caleb and the coach or whatever, but that's the point production. That's it. And it's above, a little bit above Kansas City, above Green Bay, who are both in the 25-point range. Jacksonville, Baltimore, 24, Denver, San Fran, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati in the 23-point range. Now, on the left-hand side, in first place is Buffalo. So over the last 3 weeks, Buffalo has averaged 29.7 points per game, followed closely by Dallas. And basically the same average, 29.3 points per game. You got Jacksonville at 29, my Niners at 29. So we've had some wins there. Put a couple points on the board on Poor Shador. Oh, I hear they have activated Deshaun Watson for practice, Benny. Mm-hmm. Uh, yeah, no, it's only in Cleveland. Rams 27, Green Bay 27, Seattle and Atlanta scoring 25 points per game. Over the last 2 weeks, Chicago is actually down just a little, 24.7, but like I said, they're running that ball. Kansas City and Carolina and Pittsburgh all at about 23, rounding out the top half, Indianapolis 22, Detroit 22, and Miami 22. So we can see, for example, Indianapolis over the last 3 weeks has gone from 29 points per game to 22 points per game. I guess I point them out because I have a bit of a bias against your Danny Dimes. I don't believe in him personally, even though I see the team as a team that's structured and everything around him, is a big factor in their success, and much less Jonathan Taylor. In any event, it is interesting to see how some of the leaders are either consistent, like Dallas, or maybe moving around a little bit, like my Niners going from 14 to 4. So what do you think about the scoring leaders here?
Yeah, the difference between the season standings and or rankings and the last 3 week rankings is very interesting. You can see where teams are surging. Now we're talking about scoring points here. So the big guns are always at the top. Colts, Dallas, Seattle, Detroit, Buffalo. Some of them were really big guns early and have shown a little vulnerability lately. Some of them were kind of middle of the road early and are starting to blow up now lately. So again, it's very interesting. Still a lot can happen in these last few weeks going down the stretch. We're going into week 14. So the fantasy playoffs start week 15. So 15, 16, and 17, that's when fantasy ends. And that's when the real NFL playoffs begin. So these are the games that you got to have.
Okay. All right. Well, Ben has brought us into the playoff implications and into the fantasy implications and all of that stuff. So good stuff. All right, let's look at defense. Defense, Benny, wins. Oh no, I'm sorry. Let's look at the second half of the scorers. So sorry. Tampa Bay and the Chargers both at 23 points, 17th and 18th. Philly at 19, ranking, scoring 22.5 points per game. Just above Arizona, Houston, Washington. Your Giants, 21.5, not that far off. Miami, the Jets, Atlanta in that 20-point range. Carolina 19, and then down to Tennessee at 14. So we go from 18 down to about 14. on the season, on the last 3 weeks, been in darn Cincinnati. I'm telling you, messed up my numbers.
I warned you.
Arizona 21, the Chargers, Giants, and Washington and Baltimore all at about 20. Your 19 range is Denver, Tampa Bay, and Houston. Philly's coming in over the last 3 weeks at 17.3 points per game. So for the season, Super Bowl chance with 22.5 average point scoring, but for the last 3 weeks, that's dropped by about 6 points to 17.3. They're down in the New York Jets and Cleveland Browns neighborhood. Then rounding out the bottom, the Saints, the Raiders, the Titans, and the Vikings. The wheels are really falling off. The
Mm.
coach for the Vikings.
Oof.
Man, and let me ask you real quick. Mariucci on one of the shows was talking about the guy who was going to come in with JJ McCarthy, the quarterback, and he predicted that this guy was going to throw for over 400 yards.
He was joking, right?
It was
You
one
know
of
Mooch, man. Mooch is always joking. You can
it was
never
one of
tell when he's serious.
those bold predictions. That's they had
Okay.
it was a
So
bold
these guys
prediction.
on TV make these bold predictions, and they know darn well that they can blow up in their faces. And if they do, they can just go, oh man, I really missed that one. Ha ha ha. And laugh it off. And if it actually happens, I'm a genius. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was a mess. That
Well,
guy had no shot.
my comment was it's one thing to be wrong. It's another thing to be spectacularly wrong.
Yeah, he should have never threw a number out there. He should have just said, "Don't be surprised if the guy plays really well." He should have just left it like that
He gave him a
because,
title. I don't remember the title, but it was like Wonder of the Week or something like that.
oh, geez.
Yeah, he went full ham on that one. In any event, we are talking about scoring here, and this is the bottom half of your NFL scoring list. Jump quickly to defense, Benny. Average points against APA for the season in the last 3 weeks. For the season, the Houston Texans only giving up 16.5 points per game. I just find that interesting as you look over the last 3 weeks and see that that number one spot is now taken by Jacksonville, and the number of points has dropped to 11. So
Mm.
it's just starting to tighten. As a matter of fact, they don't get down to let's see here, on the season side, they don't get down to 11 at all. They, matter of fact, for the last 3 weeks, 20.7 is the number 16 spot, and that's the same as my Niners at eighth on the for the season. Now, what all that means, I'm not quite sure, but long story short, they're tightening it up in the last 3 weeks. And you see your defensive leaders now. Philadelphia is coming in 10th, tied with Indianapolis, giving up 20.8 points per game. Just below my Niners at 20.7 in eighth place. Kansas City, Green Bay, New England, Denver, Seattle, Rams, Houston sounds like playoff contention to me, pretty much through that group here. And again, over the last 3 weeks, the numbers were really low. It matched up New England at number 6 over the last 3 weeks at 16.3. Houston 16.5 was in first place. So, the lower numbers are the higher rankings and on defense. Anything on this group, Benny?
Now, just as you were starting to say a little earlier, defense wins championships. That's what everybody says. And these rankings, these higher teams and points against are pretty solid groups, man. Houston's been stingy all season. The Rams are really coming on strong. Seattle, they're really beating people up. Denver's been great all season. They got like 40 something sacks.
Yeah.
New England's been solid. Green Bay's been a little up and down, but they were predicted to be a good defense, and it looks like they're turning out to be. They had a couple of shaky games there. Um, Kansas City's DC, Spagnola, who I love, he's hanging on by the skin of his teeth trying to get these guys to win games, but they've been fairly solid. And San Francisco, considering the injuries, is doing really well. Robert Sala's got them guys inspired, man. They're
I
they're
love
they're
them.
playing they're playing a bit over their heads, I would say.
I love them.
I don't know how long he can keep it going.
Well, you know what they say, man. Rally to the ball. That's about
Yeah,
all you can do. Maybe
yeah.
good things will happen. Good things
Mm-hmm.
will happen, and that's what they do, man. They play very energetically. Um, Miami over the last 3 weeks only giving up 14.3 points per game. So that's an interesting situation. Let's see here. Green Bay, all right, and defense, 16.7 points. They're ahead of Denver. New Orleans only giving tied with Denver. Look at that, 17.3 points per game in the top half over the last 3 weeks. Philly and the Rams tied at 19. Baltimore, 19.3. Chargers and Cleveland, 19.7 tie. Chicago, 20 points. And I think for Chicago, that's a move up for their defense. So as long as their defense continues to improve, it's kind of like with Dallas. The offense is finding its
Right,
rhythm. They seem to get their thing. And now if they
right,
can just get the defense clicking, you know what I
right.
mean? It might be the same thing for San Fran. I mean, excuse me, for the Kansas City. When I heard a little bit of the news conference for Andy Reid for Kansas City, and well, the one thing I know he meant talked about was penalties. You know,
Mm.
penalties in very inopportune times. So here is your top half of the NFL defensive group. Benny, you got anything for this group?
No, just like I said, you got all solid units here from Houston down to Green Bay. Kansas City's going to be challenged because of their offense, not because of their defense, but they're on the field a lot. San Francisco's battling over injuries. The Colts, I'm pretty sure they were pretty high up earlier in the season. They're really starting to show a couple of chinks in their armor there on both sides of the ball. Philadelphia, I was going to say I have no clue what's going on with them, but actually I do. But I'm going to talk about that later. Everybody else has got their issues. If you look at the last 3 weeks, some of the movement upward is because of favorable matchups. But I don't see where anybody's having any like super improvement, except
Well, Jacksonville went from 12th place to first place, so we have
I
to
will call that some significant improvement, yes.
significant,
But
yeah.
I was getting ready to say a team like New Orleans that's sitting there at 9, I just think they just had some favorable matchups where they were able to keep the score low and give them a good ranking there.
Okay, okay, all right. Surprised to see that actually for the last 2 weeks they're ahead of the Rams and Philly, giving up less points than the two of them. All right, so this is the top half. Defensive scoring, all right, from number one Houston for the season to number one Jacksonville over the last 3 weeks. Next up, we have the bottom half of the defensive scoring group. We're in the 23-point range and it drops down to 31 for Cincinnati. Now, again, this is where we pointed out before Dallas. Look, number 31st place for the season. However, Dallas for the last 3 weeks is in 17th place.
Right.
So that's what we were talking about when we say their defense is playing better, right?
Significantly better.
Right there. Um, and no, Dallas being able to score over 28 points per game when they hold the team to 21, they're in good stead in most cases because
Exactly.
they're going to score more than 21 points. Um, on for over the last 3 weeks, the 22-point range is Atlanta, Indianapolis, and Minnesota. So here you are with and Indianapolis in the bottom half over the last 3 weeks in terms of defense. Kansas City, 24.3, they're 23rd. Detroit, the Jets, and Cincinnati all tied. When you are in those neighborhoods, that ain't good. 24.7 points per game that they're giving up. Carolina, Washington, Arizona, Vegas, your Giants at 31st place, Benny, over the last 3 weeks, and Tampa Bay in 32nd place over the last 3 weeks, Benny, giving up. They've been losing like that, 31.7 points per game. Did I miss some?
Who?
Tampa Bay.
They had a bad one, just like the Giants. I mean, last 3 weeks includes last week.
Yes, it does.
Last week, the last week the Giants lost 33-15.
Okay, okay, okay.
And the Bucks got blown out the week before by the Rams, 34-7.
Oh, gave up 30.
Sometimes it only takes one game to wreck you.
Well, that really is
That's
helping
that
us out.
skew.
Don't
That's
the
the
skew, the
skew.
skew, the skew. All right, Benny. Well, the last stat that we look at is average turnover differential because turnovers equal points. And congratulations to Chicago holding on to that number one spot at plus 1.4. And again, this can go positive or negative. And congratulations to Green Bay. And I have to say, Carolina, since they're tied over the last 3 weeks at plus 1.7 on the average turnover differential. So again, that is giveaways minus takeaways. I don't care if it's interceptions or fumbles, doesn't make a difference. Just when you turn that ball over. My Niners are up there, tied with Miami at plus 1.3 over the last 3 weeks. For the season, you got a three-way tie, Houston, Tampa Bay, and LA Rams at plus 0.8, Pittsburgh at plus 0.7. That's one of the few things Pittsburgh is in the top five in, Benny. Let's see. Detroit, Philadelphia, and Indianapolis, Green Bay. They're all there. What do you think about this group?
Well, I mean, turnovers are important. Even though Houston's been ranked very high in defense in our rankings and in the NFL rankings, turnovers wasn't exactly their forte, but they've really come on strong lately. So that's why they're so high on this list, as they should be. The Rams have looked strong. Most of the teams that have strong, solid defenses are going to be high in this category because they take the ball away more than their offense gives it away. So
Okay,
that's pretty much the story there.
there you go. There you go. There you go. Average turnover differential, A tide. We like A tide, Benny. We like A tide. All right, here. Well, that wraps up the statistical overview for the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. You get an idea about how we get to the information, but these are their actual numbers. So we're not making up anything, no conjecture, no opinion here. These are the straight numbers, and then you can draw your conclusions. And especially when it comes to the next step, which we will be doing in our next show, Ben and Barry on football, where we'll talk about the matchups between these teams and use those Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, net points, and turnover differentials to come to a calculation on who's going to be favored in those. So you can find us at www.sterlingnppr.com. If you're on YouTube, please click the notification bell and the subscribe button. All right, Benny, that's all I got.
Done.
Peace.